They're there, our parents. They're there for one reason and one reason only, to help us feel strong and good about ourselves. But look at the way we talk to each other. Look, a budget's been cut. And so what do you get told? I need you guys to do more with less. Right? That's what we're told. Hey guys, I need you guys to do more with less. That's what we're told by our clients, by our bosses, by our parents. This is what we're told, right? That's like your parents telling you when you're young, I know you're stupid, figure it out.
Fast and can see farther than most units,
right? You're not as smart as the other kids.
Around the map manually, or
what do you want me to do? Right? It's the exact same thing. I need you to do more with less, right? What we need to be telling people is, I need you to do more with what you have, right? You have capacity, you have strength, you have talent, you have ability. I need you to do more with what you have. We don't celebrate what we've got. We criticize for what we don't have. This is the responsibility of management, to take us under their wing and help us understand our own value to ourselves.
Build as many as you can.
Close your eyes and think back to high school. And think of that one teacher who took you under their wing and cared for you and looked after you and helped you realize that you are capable of more than you thought you were. And you probably are the person you are today in some part because of that person, right? Do you have that name? What's the name? Tell me the name. Tell me the name of the teacher. Okay, give me the name. Okay, I can point to anybody and you can tell me that name. Now tell me the names of all the other teachers you had that day. Can't remember them, can you? This is the power of those who teach us confidence. We will literally carry their names around with us for the rest of our lives. Wouldn't you want to be that person? Wouldn't you want to be the person that 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, I can do this exercise with somebody and they will tell me.
We need to build units to defend our nation and attack the enemy.
This is the power.
In order to build a barracks, we need to research the first red military technology at the library.
This is what management and leadership is supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be caring for us and helping us realize our own value. And by the way, if you have anybody who reports to you or works for you, your responsibility is not to make them meet the deadline. Your responsibility is not to make sure that they do as you say. Your responsibility is to make sure that they understand their own strengths, their own value, and that they are way, way more talented than they think they are. And the only way they will learn that is if you put them in situations in which they can fail. And you hold them and you support them and you give them talent and you give them skills and you give them education and you watch their backs, and if they fall over, you encourage them to get back up, and if they fall over, you encourage them to get back up, and if they fall over, you encourage them to get back up until they figure it out themselves. It's called confidence. It's your responsibility to help others find it, and it's others' responsibility to help you find yours. And the amazing thing is, as soon as you start feeling confident in your own ability, you naturally help each other. That's what happens. It's called trust. In the military, they give medals to people who are willing to sacrifice themselves so that others may gain. In business, we are willing to give bonuses to people who will sacrifice others so that we may gain. We have it backwards. And then we complain about how we don't love our jobs, we complain about how the work is suffering, we complain about how budgets are being cut, we complain. And the first thing we do is blame each other and become more selfish and worry about my pay and my benefits and my this, and this is what happens. When we are unfulfilled, we look at the metrics and we say they're not good enough. When we are fulfilled, we don't care about the metrics. This is why when you have a job you love and you get a call that says, I'll offer you tons more money and great benefits, you're like, I'm not interested, I'm not interested, I'm not interested. I'm very happy here, but we'll give you more. That's not the reason I'm here. I'm here because I love it. I'm here because I care for the people I work with, and I'm here because the people I work with care for me. This is the world I imagine. This is the world I imagine. And here's the great thing. If you take little risks, I'm not talking about big things, little things. If you start doing little things for each other, the amazing anthropological response is other people will start doing little things for others too.
Try building a temple
walking down the street
to increase its defenses and expand your borders.
And a guy's backpack was open and a whole bunch of paper fell out as he was walking down the street. And I happened to be behind him, and so my friend and I just we were in mid-conversation, and in mid-conversation, we never even stopped talking. We just bent down, sort of helped him gather his papers, hand them back to him, sort of pointed out that his book bag was his backpack was unzipped, and he said thanks, and we walked on. It was like no big deal, right? We get to the end of the street, and we stand we're waiting to cross the street. We're still talking, we haven't stopped talking. And the guy in front of us turns to us and says, I saw you help that guy. That was really cool. But here's what's great about that. The guy will go do something for someone else simply because he saw us bend down and pick up paper for someone else. He will actually go do something for someone else because of it, right? He won't give to charity because he sees me put $1 in a cup, but he will actually help someone because he saw someone also help someone. Little things. Hold the door open for someone. Say thank you to the person who holds the door open for you. Smile to the barista. Little things. Put your foot in the subway when the door is closing so someone who's running will make it. Hit the open at the elevator. Don't go, or pretend you didn't see. That's the best one. Oh, I would have if I saw. Sorry, right? Do it. A little time and a little energy. And you'll find around work that people give a little time and a little energy back to you. And you'll give a little more time and a little more energy. You go for a coffee with someone. Then you go for a 2-hour coffee. Then you go for a coffee and a lunch. Then you go for a lunch and a dinner. Then you go for a dinner and a movie. And then you sleep over. And then you sleep over 2 nights. And then you go on holiday together. And eventually you get married, right? It's slow. It takes time. And we can't rush it. If when we rush it, it's all fake. Do things for others and watch how much others do for you. Go get yourself a cup of coffee from the coffee machine in the morning. Make one for someone else. It takes a little extra time. It takes a little extra energy. That's the point. That's the point. And here's the best part. You will feel so good at the end of the day. So good. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. It's a great question. How do you convince someone, what are the metrics? How do you convince a skeptical audience of this trust metric? You don't, right? You can't twist anybody's arm to do something that they don't want to do. And, the law of diffusion, which I obey, as much as I can, which is you don't need the majority. You need those people who believe what you believe. In other words, when you do some nice things for people, they may not do something nice back because they may be, we live in a world in which you do something for somebody, they think you want something from them, right? That's unfortunately the society we've created. But that's the risk that we keep taking. And I'm not saying you should keep doing it for somebody who keeps doing nothing and keeps sort of, crapping on you because of it. Then at some point you have to be like, all right, my bad, right? And you back off. I don't believe in helping everyone. I do not believe in it, right? This is not, let's do good for everyone on the planet. That's not what I'm talking about. Mother Teresa, who's the poster child for giving selflessly to all who need, at the end of her life started questioning the existence of God and, by the way, hated her life. Serious, okay? In other words, giving to others unabashedly is actually self-destructive. It doesn't help, right? And it's just like going on dates with people you don't like doesn't mean you'll eventually click and match, right? There's only one machine that I found that really accurately measures trust better than any other sort of metric. It's called a human being. It's really good at it, right? And so those feelings you get, trust them in one way or the other. It's the little risks, it's the butterflies, it's the unsure. It's the backwards and it's the dance. It's dating. It's the dance. It's the nerves. It's that. So if there are cynical bastards at your office who don't get it, ignore them. Don't worry about it, because eventually you'll get enough, and those people will either come along or leave, or be pushed out. Ostracized. Remember, when the group starts helping each other, they ostracize the ones who refuse to help, whether they're strong or whether they're weak. They get ostracized until they learn that they cannot survive without the help of others, and they learn that the only way others will help them is if they help the others, right? The order matters. The order matters. I just thought of something that sort of is pervasive in our sort of, digital world. The order matters. Sort of speak honestly about what you want, right? If you are don't do things for people when you want something from them. Just ask them what you want from them. And I'll give you one little example. It's a funny little example. We've all received emails that go like this. Dear Simon. Well, you wouldn't get an email to Dear Simon, but I would. Dear, insert your name, right? Dear Simon, haven't seen you in years. Hope you're well. Congratulations on all you've been doing. It's really amazing. We should get coffee sometime. If you could do me a favor, if you could vote for me on this website, I'm hoping to win, some $1,000 prize for my design, blah, blah, blah. Hope you're well, talk to you soon, Kenny, right? We've all received an email like that. And how do we respond to it? Right? Now, what happens if you get the same email that goes like this? Dear Simon, I'm hoping you could vote for me on this website. I'm trying to win some $1,000 prize for my design. I haven't seen you in years. I hope you're really well. Congratulations on all that you've been doing. We should get a coffee sometime. Thanks, Kenny. Totally different. In other words, when we know why you're emailing and it comes first, it has a remarkable impact. We know that all those pleasantries are just buttering us up to get to what they want, right? But if you come right out with what you want, we're actually very grateful for the pleasantries, right? It's the same thing in human interaction. Don't give someone a cup of coffee if you need a favor back. Just ask them for the favor. It builds trust. I can't trust you every time you do something nice for me. I think you want something from me. I won't trust you. And this is what companies do to us, right? Well, we did this for you, why won't you do this for us? That's not how it works. Generosity, bending down to pick up the papers, holding the door open for someone, is expecting nothing in return, ever. You do not give. This is what happens in new business, right? New business is built on relationships, and so we build the relationship until we're comfortable to ask for the business. In other words, you were only befriending me till the point you felt that I would let down my guard and you could ask me for something. The whole time you were just waiting for that time. It doesn't work that way. If you actually want to build relationships, you build relationships without wanting anything. And that's how you build trust. You want to know why the Marines gave me this incredible access? I mean, literally, they said, Simon, anything you want to see, you got it. Anything you want to do, you got it. You can go. We went past signs that said, no observers, no civilians beyond this point. I'm like, can I take pictures? They're like, go ahead. You should see some of the pictures. They're unbelievable, right? I'm like right in there, Marines coming at me. We went out to the Crucible, and we're all like, they were like rolling in the dirt and like, going under barbed wire, and I'm like, I'm not joking either. They're like, unprecedented access that journalists would be jealous of. Do you know why they gave it to me? Because in all the time that I've been visiting with Marines and having meetings with them, I've never asked for anything. I don't want anything, and I don't have anything to sell. I just keep showing up and say, what do you need? How can I help? And at some point they said, when I called them and said, I need a little favor, because they know I haven't been waiting for the favor. It's the time now that I have a little favor. They go, absolutely, whatever you need. It's called human relationships. Companies don't do business with companies, people do business with people. Your company didn't win IBM as a client. Somebody who liked somebody said, we'll hire you, and if they didn't like you, they're just, they're playing roulette. Well, we're betting that, this will work out. Those are the weak relationships. Yes?
How do you deal with the boss who's a jerk or at least not getting it?
The more we give, the more it inspires others to give. But the more selfish we are, the more others become selfish around us. And so those are organizations in which selfish behavior prevails. And so we see the residual effects, which is they make decisions that ultimately screw us. They destroy our economy because of their selfish behavior, right? We know this is what happens. Same in politics, right? And the answer is, don't worry about it. I know it sounds silly, and your first question is, do I talk about these things to them? I will talk to anyone who will listen. But I don't talk to people who don't want to listen. The good news is there are some good eggs, and there are some of them who've had conversions, where they were the bastards who believed in firing people and screwing people to advance their careers, and something happens. I just met a guy recently who's a very senior executive at a very, very large company, and something happened, and he got hit in the head or something, and he realized, holy cow, I have to look after people, right? And they become obsessed with it, and they start sticking their necks out. And we just need those champions scattered around. And this is what I do. The more I spread this message, the more it's kind of like in the cartoons, sort of the Hall of Justice. The message goes out, and they all sort of wherever they are, they poke their heads up. It's that kind of thing. the more we talk about it, the more we put it in our work, because don't forget, you're gonna help someone who goes home feeling good and their husband or their wife works in the bank. And they're gonna talk how much about they love to, and that might inspire that person. It has all of these residual impacts that we don't really know. This is the funny thing about the internet, which is we're so proud of the internet that we can measure everything. No, you can't. You can only measure one layer, right? So for example, you say, Simon, what's the impact you're having? I don't know is the answer, right? I know I know that it'll take more than a week and it'll take 7 years, but I don't know when it's gonna happen and I don't know how it's gonna get there, right? All I can do is do it, right? But I have no clue how or when. And so, for example, I can measure book sales and I can measure how many hits and I can measure how many people have watched a TED Talk and all of this, but I can't measure, that TED Talk being shown to a room of 50 people, and one of those 50 people doesn't buy a book, doesn't watch a TED Talk, doesn't do anything, but goes out and does something good for somebody else. I have no way of measuring that. And so we're so proud of the internet and its ability to measure everything, but we're measuring one layer where we used to measure no layers. It's like, this is how people work. It's gossamer, it's network. And so the answer is don't worry about them. Don't worry about them. Worry about the people who you can care for, who you can give to, and when we reach a critical mass in society, it will tip, right? And if you don't believe me, the reason it is the way it is now is because it tipped the wrong way. There was no such thing as massive layoffs as business strategy prior to in the 1980s. It just wasn't done. It was done here and there, but it wasn't strategy. The idea of using layoffs to balance the books is a relatively new phenomenon that came for the increase of selfishness in the Gordon Gekko greed is good 1980s boom, right? This was also the same exact period, the 1980s, where the theory of shareholder value was put forward, right? Because they had all of these people buying large companies and installing professional managers to run the companies that they bought, that they invested in, and they had a problem, which is those professional managers were paid for by the company, and those professional managers cared for the employees and the customers. And so the investors said, how do we protect our investments? We've got an idea. We're going to give them equity in the company and bonus them based on the performance, right? And so the shift happened where the CEOs started caring more about the investors and stopped caring about the customers and the employees. Those were theories introduced by some Harvard professor in the 1980s. We can push it back the other way, right? We can push it back the other way. But we just have to, and there was just the other day, which company was it? One of the large banks where the shareholders, Citibank. Yeah, Citibank. The majority shareholders voted against a fat pay package. That's unprecedented. It has never happened, even in hard times, even when the company's doing this, the shareholders it's just sort of a cursory thing where they approve the $15 million bonus for the CEO. They voted against it. It's non-binding, but it sends a shot across the bow saying shareholders now want you to be bonused if you do something good for others, even if the others is us. Right? The point is that it's starting to crack. And so let's just stick our finger in the crack, make sure that it keeps cracking. It swung one way, we can swing it back. The question was, can I talk about celebrating accomplishment while still asking for more, right? They did a study on kids who are really, really smart, like in all the gifted classes. Why is it when you're smart, you're gifted, and when you're stupid, you're special? Why is that? I was told my whole life I was special. It's not, never gifted. They took the gifted kids who are constantly told, you're so good. Oh, thanks for that. I knew you'd do well. Oh, you're our best employee. You're our best student. You're awesome, right? And what happens is later in life, they actually suffer because they're very afraid of taking risk, because they're very afraid of losing their position on the mantle, okay? Kids who are sort of more average, who constantly are rewarded not for their accomplishment, but for their effort. Great effort. Really proud of the improvement you made. What they find is they do very well in life because there's no shelf, there's always more. There's more effort, right? And so you want to reward and acknowledge effort, even if they don't hit the goal, it's the delta. But at the same time, if it goes backwards, you'd be like, dude, what's going on? Like we shouldn't be giving ribbons for everyone who competes, right? Because what we're teaching people is, if you do nothing, you get a medal, right? And the funny thing is we're creating a generation that's feeling very hollow and feeling, this sense of entitlement that people complain about Gen Y. The entitlement is, I don't feel like I've accomplished anything. And the funny thing is about human beings is the way we feel accomplished is when we exert energy and time and reach a destination, right? And the more energy and time that we have to suffer through, especially if we suffer together and we get somewhere, it is overwhelming. Think about the best jobs you've ever worked on. Was it the best design? Was it the best results that the company had because of your project? Or was it an absolute hell project that you worked together and you came out at the other end and that you got it done at the deadline and you're like, that was amazing. It was the hell projects. It was the things that we had to go out of our ways more, do things for each other, right? Things we weren't thinking of doing. I was wrapping packages. I was doing stuff that designers aren't supposed to do. This is what produces that, right? And so the thing is about measurement and destination reward. Imagine we're standing in a big empty room, right? And we're standing in one corner and I give you a simple instruction. I want you to go to that corner in a straight line, right? Off you go, no big deal, right? Without telling you, I slip a chair in front of you. What do? You go around the chair. Now you just disobeyed what I told you to do. I told you to go to that corner straight line. But this is the amazing things about human beings, which is when we're given a clear destination, we use our own creativity and our own sense of innovation and our own problem-solving abilities to overcome obstacles to get to the destination. In other words, the destination is more important than the route, right? We're flexible about the route. We're obsessed with the destination. Reset. We're standing in the corner together and I give you a simple instruction. Go somewhere in this room in a straight line. And you say to me, well, where do you want me to go? I'm like, I don't know. You're smart, figure it out. Go in a straight line. And so you pick a point and you start walking. And without telling you, I put a chair in front of you. And what do? You come to a grinding halt. I say, what did you stop for? You go, well, you put a chair in front of me. Or you'll make a sudden turn and go in another direction, right? And this is the problem. It's the same obstacle. The difference is when you have a clear destination, the obstacles become easy to overcome. When you don't have a clear destination, you keep coming to a grinding halt. And what we do in our companies is we're counting the steps we're taking along the route, but we're never looking at the destination, right? So a company says, made $1 million this year, we were only planning on making 800,000. Like we took 10 steps, we're only planning on taking 8. Where are you going? No clue, right? We count the steps. And so the point is that people want to feel that the effort that they're exerting actually are moving somewhere. And so successful measurement, successful recognition is not just for the steps you take. It's not just for the effort. It's that the effort you exerted moved us closer to where we're trying to get to. And that get to should be some crazy ideal. My ideal is to live in a world in which the vast majority of people wake up every single morning, inspired to go to work and fulfilled by the work that they do. And the couple of measurements that I use are if the book is selling, and by the way, people ask me, how many have you sold? I have no clue. I've never asked the publisher because I don't care. I really don't care how many I've sold. What I care about is the Amazon rankings and that those are going steady or up and not plummeting, because that means other people, right? Because I don't have a publicist, I don't have a marketing strategy on purpose. I didn't hire one of those companies to sell the book for me. And the reason is because I'm not interested in book sales. I'm interested in the spreading of an idea. And so I just use that as a metric to help me understand, am I sort of marching because the more I preach, is it resonating? And so you have a couple of these imperfect measurements that help you understand, are you going along the way? So it's not just great effort, look what you achieved, because that's what we're doing now, right? Our goal is to increase top-line revenues by $50 million. For what reason, right? Which is we have to know the destination, and then we say, amazing, you took us that much closer. And if we go to the right, it's because we were overcoming an obstacle. If we hadn't gone to the right, we would have been stuck forever. Thank you. It's not always straight lines. It's not always straight lines, but it's in one direction. She's pulling the cane out. Thank you very, very much. next couple of days, you probably hear a lot about how to make better design, how to execute better, how to consider your clients or the end user when you're doing what you have to do. And I'd like to add another item to the list to consider as you sit here for the next 2 days, which is how can you help the human race? How can you help the human race, the human species, progress? I'm not joking either. This is something I think we all have to be aware of. At the end of the day, the human animal is a social animal. And our very survival depends on our ability to form communities, to form cultures. What's a community? What's a culture? It's a group of people with a common set of values and beliefs, right? What's a country? It's a group of people with a common set of values and beliefs. What's a company? It should be a group of people with a common set of values and beliefs. When we're surrounded by people who believe what we believe, something remarkable happens. Trust emerges. And make no mistake of it, trust is a feeling, a distinctly human feeling. You know, we all have friends who are total screw-ups, and yet we still trust them, right? Trust is not a checklist. Simply doing everything you say you're going to do does not mean people will inherently trust you. It just means you're reliable. We need trust, right? We need trust. When we're surrounded by people who believe what we believe and trust starts to emerge, when we trust them and they trust us, we're more willing to take risks. We're more willing to experiment, which requires failure. We're more willing to explore and go somewhere that no one has ever gone before, with the confidence that if we fail, if we trip over, if we turn our backs, that those within our community, those who we trust and who trust us, will look after us while we're gone, will pick us up when we fall over, will help us when we're hurt. Our very survival depends on it. We're not good at everything. We're not good by ourselves. You know, if I send you out to go fight a saber-toothed tiger by yourself, odds are tiger 1, you 0. It's not going to go very well. But if you go out as a group, we're pretty damn amazing. And the reason is because we all have our certain strengths and we all have our certain weaknesses. And the goal is not to fix your weaknesses. The goal is to amplify your strengths and surround yourself with the people who can do what you can't do. But it's not just based on skills and application and experience. It's based on what you believe. It's based on what you believe. You see, simply being good at something and having somebody else being good at what you're no good at does not mean you will trust each other. Trust, the sense of trust comes from the sense of common values and common beliefs. I can prove it. How many of you are from New York? Okay, a bunch of you. Are you friends with everybody in New York? Why not? Why not? But when you go to Los Angeles and you meet someone from New York, you're like, hey, I'm from New York, and you're best friends, right? And when you go to France, there you are in the Paris metro, minding your own business, and you hear an American accent behind you, and you turn around, and you say, hey, where are you from? They say, Los Angeles. You're like, hey, I'm from New York, and you're best friends. Because when you're surrounded by people who don't believe what you believe, when you're in a strange environment where you don't feel comfortable, you look for anyone who may share some of the same values and beliefs that you have, and you start to form a very real and very intense bond with them, simply because you know that they have a basic understanding of how you grew up, of the things that you care about, of the life that you live back home. Well, the same is true when we go to work. Do we want to go to work with people who understand us, who believe what we believe, who have a similar view of the world that has nothing to do with their opinions and the differences that we share? That's good. That's called diversity. That's called advantages to problem solving, which is we can all look at the same thing from a different angle and come up with solutions. What I'm talking about is why should you help each other in the first place? What are you in pursuit of? Now the question is what creates that sense of values and beliefs? What creates that sense of trust? Right? Our very human instinct. We know how to find people who believe what we believe. Our survival depends on it. We're biologically gifted with this idea. If I ask you to go out in the street and find all the people who believe what you believe, you know exactly what to do. You're going to strike up conversations. You're going to start talking to people. And either you'll have a good feeling about them or you won't. Either you'll have chemistry, whatever that means, or you don't. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's slow. But we know how to do it. It's called making friends, it's called dating, it's called networking. We have the innate ability to do it. The problem is it's not scalable. The problem is you're the only one who had that gut feeling. But if you know the symbols to look for, if you know how to see the things that people are doing and saying, that you can find them. If I tell you go out on the street and find all the people wearing red hats, it's easy. There's one, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. They're easy to spot simply because they have a symbol, they have something they're giving off that says something about who they are and what they believe. When you were standing on that Paris metro, that American accent that you heard was a symbol, it was a sign. You don't know these people, and yet you trust them. They will say to you, you guys have to go to this restaurant. And you'll go, okay, and you'll go to that restaurant because they told you to. Now, what if you were walking down the street and some stranger just says, hey, you gotta go to this restaurant? You'd be like, crackpot, right? You're gonna ignore them. This is what trust does. This is why we don't research everything. We don't need access to all information. Let's say you wanna go buy a new television, right? So you do all your research, consumer reports, look it all up, right? I know what I'm gonna buy, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm getting the LG, it's the best on the market, can't wait to get it, right? So that's what you've decided to do this weekend. That Friday night, you go over to a friend's house, your friend, the gadget guy, the guy who has the first of everything, right? And you go to his house and you can't wait to show off and share with him what you're gonna do with all your research. And you say, I'm getting the new LG. And he says, nah man, get the Sony, it's so much better. In that one instant, either he's completely turned all of your research on its head, and you're gonna have to go back and do all the research again. Is he right? Should I trust him? Should I believe him? Or you just bought a Sony. All that marketing, all that research, out the tube, down the drain. It doesn't matter. Because the person that you trust, the person from within your community, told you that you should get the Sony. And you trust him. He knows more than you. He must be right. I trust him. I don't have to know everything. Again, you're walking down the street, you accidentally bump shoulders with somebody and they say, where are you going? You say, oh, I'm going to Best Buy to get the new LG. They go, don't get the new LG, I know everything about this stuff, get the Sony. Crackpot, right? You're going to ignore the person. We don't trust everyone. We trust people from within our community. But you have to know what to look for. Just as I said before, when you find the people with the red hats, every single piece of communication we make, every decision we make in our lives is a piece of communication. Every decision we make in our lives as individuals or as organizations is a piece of communication. It's our way of saying something about who we are and what we believe. This is why authenticity matters. This is why you have to say and do the things you actually believe. Because the things you say and do are symbols of who you are. And we look for those symbols so we can find people who believe what we believe. Our very survival depends on it. So if you're putting out false symbols, you will attract people to those symbols, but you won't be able to form trust with them. This is what Tiger Woods did to us. He lied. He lied. He told us what he thought we wanted to hear. And it was great, and we were drawn to it. And all of us who kind of like that idea of the sort of the good guy, were drawn to it, until we found out it was a lie. He could have been the bad boy of golf. He could have had all the same endorsements and had a fantastic career and still been hailed as one of the great athletes of our day, but he didn't. He chose to lie. Good luck forming trust again, Tiger. We don't believe you. We don't trust you. The goal of putting something out there, if you say what you believe and you do what you believe, you will attract people who believe what you believe. If you go to one of your friends and you say to one of your friends, how would you like me to dress so that you'll like me better? How would you want me to address you? How do you want me to speak so that you'll like me more? Right? Your friends are going to look at you and be like, what are you talking about? You're like, come on. What should I wear so that you'll find me more appealing? And how would you like me to speak to you so that you'll like me more? And your friends are going to tell you, just be yourself. That's why I like you. I don't just be yourself. Now think about what we do in industry. What do? We do market research, and we go out and we ask the customers, what kind of things, what style should we speak to you? How should we decorate ourselves? What kind of things are you drawn to so that we can do those things so you'll like us more? It's just as ridiculous. It's just as ridiculous. Organizations should say and do the things they actually believe, and they will attract people who believe what they believe. Or they can choose to lie, and at the slightest hint that they might be lying, cynicism sets in. And people start saying, I'm not sure I can trust these guys because there's not a lot of consistency in all the things they say and do, which means they can't have a very strong belief set or they're lying to me. And we call them inauthentic. The entire process of asking other people who we should be is inauthentic. That's hilarious to me. All these positioning studies we do are inherent. We're going to do a study to find out from people so we can be more authentic. That's hilarious. Say and do what you actually believe, and the symbols you put out there, the things you say and the things you do, those red hats are ways that people can find you. What you have the ability to do as designers is create those symbols and allow people to use those things to say something about who they are. Work for companies, work for clients, work for people who you believe what they believe. Show up and feel a part of something bigger than yourself. And your part is to put what they believe into pictures and words and symbols and graphics so that other people can use those things to say something about who they are. People put Harley-Davidson logos on their body to say something about who they are. Corporate logo. Ain't no Procter & Gamble's tattooed on anybody's arm. Because Harley means something. They stand for something. People put that tattoo on there not to tell you that they own a motorcycle. They put that tattoo there to tell you something about themselves. You ever see anybody with a Mac laptop put a sticker over that beautiful shining apple? Ain't never gonna happen. Then how will you know who I am? Do you ever see anybody with a PC break out the Windex to clean out their computer? Mac people? Have you ever seen a dirty Mac? Doesn't exist. Does not exist. Why? Because it's who I am. These are symbols we use. The companies that are crystal clear in what they believe, and they're disciplined in how they do it, and they're consistent in what they do, and everything they say and everything they do serves as a symbol of the set of values and beliefs. We use those symbols to say something about who we are. We surround ourselves with the people and the products and the brands that say something about who we are. And when we can find the people who believe what we believe, we're weirdly drawn to them because our very survival depends on it. We need it. And so the more you can give of yourself, the more you can give of what you believe, the more you can with discipline, say and do the things you actually believe, strange things start to happen. Just like on that metro in Paris, simply because of one tiny little symbol that was put out there, that we are from the same place. We may have the same values, we may have the same beliefs. We're drawn to each other, and we legitimately trust each other, and more importantly, we'll look out for each other. And that's the key to all of this. We go to work every day, and we sit at our computers, and we sit at our desks, and we solve problems by sending emails. Get up and go talk to somebody. It's called human interaction, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'll tell you a quick story. I was on a plane about a week ago, actually. It was only about a week ago. And I was coming down the aisle, and my seatmate, I guess, my companion for the next 5 hours, was already sitting down. She was in the aisle, and I had the window seat. And you know, we've all had this experience where you're the one who gets there first, and you look down and you hope that it's that one. Please, 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 no. Praying that becomes your seatmate. I've had many fantasies about wives and girlfriends that never sat down next to me. It's better than an icebreaker, right? Hi, right? Sitting next to you. And equally, we've seen people coming down the aisle saying, please don't sit next to me, please don't sit next to me. No, we've all done that. Well, she ignored me entirely. So I could only assume that she was praying that I wouldn't sit next to her. I somehow think though she was hoping that no one would sit next to her. So, you know what it's like. We've all been on planes. You travel and you go to the aisle, and custom dictates, just general politeness, that the person looks up to you and says, you sitting here? She didn't. She completely ignored me. Had her face in her book, and put my bag in the overhead compartment. She still ignored me, to the point where I actually had to say, excuse me, I'm sitting there. And she sort of begrudgingly moved aside. She didn't stand up. She begrudgingly moved her legs to the side and went, right? Like this was something she didn't expect would happen, right? So I sat down. I knew exactly what this flight was going to be like. I would have my headphones on for 5 hours, and I would ignore the person sitting next to me and be afraid every time I had to go to the bathroom. And when I'm on a plane, the pressure, I have to go more often. It's very embarrassing. And so I sit down as soon as I've gone, and I have to go immediately again. I'm going to have a bladder infection because, anyway, different story. And so we got into flight. We sort of reached altitude, and the flight attendant came around to ask us if we wanted breakfast. And And she came over to us and she said, would you like cereal? Would you like the omelet? She said to me. And I said, I'll have the cereal. And she turns to my suite mate and my seatmate. That's funny. Semi-sweet. Bitter. She turns to my seatmate and she says, do you want the omelet or do you want the cereal? And she says, I'll also have the cereal. 2 cereals. 4 minutes later, the flight attendant comes back and says, I only have 1 cereal. So now I've already decided in my mind that I was going to say to my seatmate, you have the cereal, right? That was, I had already decided. But before the words could even come out of my mouth, she turns to the flight attendant and says, I'll have the cereal. And at that point, I hated her. And here's the joke. She lacks a spirit of generosity. No matter what option she would have chosen, she would have gotten the cereal. For one, if she'd waited for 3 seconds and heard that I was about to offer it to her, she would have got the cereal, right? If she absolutely had to have the cereal, she could have turned to me and said, do you mind if I have the cereal? And I would have said, go right ahead, right? She could have even apologized or said thank you to me. I'm really sorry, allergic to eggs, can I have this cereal? You know? In other words, no matter what option she chose, she would have got the cereal. But the one option she went with was to take a selfish perspective, to go for what she wanted and ignore the wants, desires, or needs of anyone around her, even including just being polite. In other words, she didn't have to give me the cereal. She could have just been polite about it, right? Now, from that point on, I really hated her. And I wrote an article about this little experience while I was on the plane sitting next to her and made no attempt to turn the screen so she couldn't read it, secretly hoping she was. Salt and pepper hair, glasses. I'm good, thank you. And more importantly, now, I had no desire to do anything for her anymore, right? Now, when we got done, when the flight landed, perhaps as a nice person, if she had just established some sort of rapport with me, just because I'm a nice guy, I would have taken her case down. Here you go, you know? But I didn't, and I wasn't going to. Or if I did, it wouldn't have been with a spirit of generosity. If I did, it would have been as a sort of a smug remark, like, there you go, I'm still nice. It would have been as a, you know, one of those deals. Or I would have done it simply as some sort of positive reinforcement to myself that despite this horrible person, I'm still a nice guy, right? No matter which one would have motivated me to take that case down, it wouldn't have been with a spirit of generosity. It would have been some sort of selfish act or some sort of aggressive act, right? It's the spirit of generosity. If we're willing to give to the person next to us, it's amazing what they'll be willing to give to us, right? And again, our very survival depends on this. We need to trust each other. We're more willing to trust somebody who's willing to help us. I hate the whole self-help industry, right? How can you be happy? What are the 5 steps you can follow to be a millionaire? What are the 7 steps that you need to get the career that you want? You know? Me. What about helping the guy next to you? What are the 5 steps that you can do to help the person next to you lose some weight? What are the 7 steps that you can follow to help the person next to you find the job that they want? Do you know how we get fulfillment? You can be happy because you did things at work. You can be proud because you did things at work. You can be excited because you had a big success at work. But do you know how you feel fulfilled at work? When you do something for someone else. It's the only way we can get that feeling. It's the only way we get that feeling. Do you know why the statistics say that over 90% of people don't feel fulfilled by the work they do? It's not because of the job, it's not because of the pay, it's not because of the benefits. It's because we don't help each other anymore. We sit in our cubes and we work. And anything that we turn to anybody is because we need something, we need to get something. And yet we don't put ourselves out there simply for no other reason than to help somebody else. You know what generosity is? Generosity is doing something for someone else expecting nothing in return. At no point ever. I did something for him, why won't he help me? It's not an equation. It's designed to help you feel good. And Mother Nature has given us this feeling when we do something for someone else to encourage us to do it. Because when we are in groups, when we are surrounded by people who believe what we believe, trust emerges and our very survival and progress goes up. Sex feels good, it's why we do it. And Mother Nature has provided that it will feel good so that we can do it more, so that we can procreate. That was not an accident, right? Well, the same goes here. That sense of fulfillment that we get was designed so that we'll do it more, so not only will we procreate, but we'll create strong senses of bonds and cultures amongst each other. I did a little experiment with a homeless person. Not like on them, it's not like electrodes. With them, voluntarily helped me. Because the whole idea of giving, right? You've all walked down the street and you've all seen someone begging, and you either have or haven't thrown a few pennies in their cup. When you do, you feel good. You bought that feeling. That is a legitimate commercial transaction. You know, commercial transactions are defined as the exchange of consideration. There was an exchange of consideration here. You gave money, you got the feeling of goodwill. You paid for that feeling. If you didn't give money, you either feel nothing or you feel bad. You can't feel good by not giving, all right? You paid for that feeling. So now the question is, how is that person encouraging us to give? The joke is, they act like every corporation in the world. They talk about themselves. Me, 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 right? Like they sit there with their little outdoor advertising, little sign, right? And it says, I'm homeless, I'm hungry, I got 12 kids, I'm a veteran, God bless. They got it all in there, trying to appeal to somebody, the religious vote, the veteran vote, you know, the child sympathizer, surround yourself with lots of pets, go for that one too, right? All in an attempt to get something from someone. Takers, not givers, right? All about me. Well, what do corporations do? We've added more RAM, we've added more ROM, we've added more speed. This one's number one. We're the biggest, we're the best. We've been around since 1969. We're better than them, we're faster than them. We're more efficient than that one. Me, 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 me. And so even if we buy their product, guess what? So much. So I did this little experiment. I found a nice homeless lady on the streets of New York who's willing to help out. And I learned that with her sign, which was pretty typical, I'm homeless, I'm hungry, blah, 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 she makes between $20 and $30 a day for her day's worth of work, 8 to 10 hours of sitting there selling goodwill. 8 to 10 hours, she'll make $20 to $30. $30 is considered a good day. I changed her sign, and the new sign made her $40 in 2 hours. And then she left. It's one of the reasons she's homeless is because she's decided that she only needs $20 to $30 a day to live. If she stayed, she would have made $150. The point is she made $40 in 2 hours. What did the sign say? The sign said, if you only give once a month, please think of me next time. It has nothing to do with the taker. It has everything to do with the giver. And what are the objections people give when they don't give? I can't give to everyone. How do I know that they really need it? And so I addressed both those concerns. I know you can't give to everyone. So if you only give once a month, my cause is legitimate. I will still be here when you're ready to give. $40, 2 hours. Make it about them, not about me. The fact of the matter is 100% of customers are people. And 100% of clients are people. And 100% of employees are people. I don't care how good your product is, I don't care how good your marketing is, I don't care how good your design is. If you don't understand people, you don't understand business. We are social animals, we are human beings, and our survival depends on our ability to form trusting relationships. We could have had this conference online. I could have given the same talk sitting behind my computer. We could have all turned on our WebEx. We could have all sat at our terminals, and I would have given you the exact same information. Would it have been the same? No, not there. There's this weird thing about human interaction, right? You can't form trust without, you can like what I say, but you wouldn't be able to form trust without it. In fact, simply being here, we all say the same thing. You could have all, for 2 days, absolutely boring, abysmal speakers. Boring, 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 right? We've all been to those. Maybe there's one shining star, you're like, well, I like him, you know? And what do we say when we leave? The speakers sucked, but I'm glad I went because I met some great people. It's this. This is what the conference is all about. You showed up not because you're in an industry, you showed up because you have a common set of values and beliefs. There's a million design conferences. You gotta take time out of your day, you gotta pay money. It's called sacrifice, it's called payment, it's called risk. But you're here simply because you know something about each other. When you go out on the street, in an area where you don't belong, where you're not amongst people who believe what you believe, and you see somebody with the same badge as you and you haven't met them yet, you're gonna go, hey, why? They're just as much of a stranger as any other person on the street. But because they have that little symbol that says that I believe what you believe, I'm a little bit like you, we can form a bond very quickly and instantly. You do. You do. It's called human beings. Do you ever watch Deadliest Catch on the Discovery Channel? I was looking through the channels one night and Deadliest Catch came on. And on this episode, just random, they were in a huge storm. Now, for those of you who don't know Deadliest Catch, they take these crab fishing boats out in the Bering Sea, which is like terrible. And they put cameras on them, and we watch, right? The reason that's, I guess, significant is because these crab fishermen have, I think, one of the top 5 deadliest jobs in the world. You know, I don't know what the exact number is, but dozens of fishermen die every year doing this. And we apparently find that entertaining. It actually is. So they have cameras only on 5 or 6 of the ships, even though there are many, many, many ships that go out fishing every season. And they don't really come into proximity with each other because, you know, the ocean's huge. And they usually sabotage each other and give each other false information because they're all competitors. They're all looking to get the crabs and, you know, make sure that they find them and somebody else doesn't. And, you know, it's business, right? It's just business. It's okay. We all do the same thing in our own company. And in this one episode, this big, huge storm was so violent that they had to bring all the pots, which are the big cages that they catch the crabs in. They had to bring all the pots back on the boat and wait out the storm. And just by dumb luck, one of the boats that had cameras on it was in proximity of a boat that didn't have cameras on it. And so they filmed, they had secured all their pots on the deck, and so they started filming the other boat. And they filmed a guy climbing on the outside of the cage, securing the pots. And all of a sudden, a huge wave hits the side of the boat, and the guy's not there anymore. And the people on the boat with the cameras start screaming, man overboard, man overboard, man overboard. And they turn their boat towards where they think he might be. He's a stranger, they don't know him, they don't know the crew members of the other boat, and yet they react. And they turn towards him. And they find him in a drink. And for those of you who don't understand how dangerous this is, if the water is so cold that if you're in the water for, I think that it's a minute or a minute 30, hypothermia will set in and you die. And they come upon him, and he's screaming, don't let me die, don't let me die. And they pull him on board, not out of the woods yet. They strip off his clothes because it's wet and cold, and they wrap blankets around him to prevent hypothermia from setting in. And he survives. And it's over. And the captain comes down, and this is all on, I mean, you can go watch it on TV. The captain comes down, and he hugs this stranger, this young man, his competitor. He hugs this guy as if he's his own son. I lost it. Everybody is crying. And you realize what happened here was a human interaction. And the reason that they risk their own lives to help this other person, even though they spend every other day trying to get ahead and sabotage, is because at the end of the day, they're all crab fishermen. And they know something about each other. And they know something about the risk that they all take to do this. And when push comes to shove, they will put themselves out there to help each other for no other reason than they get it. They're one of the same. I will promise you that every single member of that crew that day went home with a feeling of fulfillment. I promise you that every single person on that crew that day felt more good in their hearts and in their jobs than the richest days that they've ever pulled in. My question is what are you doing to help the person next to you? Don't you want to wake up and go to work for the only reason that you can do something good for someone else? Wouldn't you want them to do that for you? Thank you very much. Thank you. So here's a little issue we have in America today. There are currently about 250,000 people a year who are dying in our hospitals due to preventable deaths. And I'm not talking about negligence, I'm talking about little accidents, right? I'm talking about the doctor in the morning not properly briefing the doctor for the evening. You know, I'm talking about things that we can't sue anybody. There's nothing that we can see that's wrong. But there's 250,000 preventable deaths every year. That's about 20 747s going down every single week. That's what's the equivalent to. And the confusing thing is that we have the best doctors in the world. We have the most advanced technology in the world. Some of the medical equipment we have is the best in the world. The medicines we have are the best in the world. So you start asking yourselves, why are these things happening? And the reason is not because of any of those things. The reasons are actually something vastly more simple. It's something very, very human. 5% of hospital administrators are doctors. Most of them are number crunchers. Hospitals are run like businesses. Hospitals are run by the numbers. And the problem isn't the people who are giving the care, they're very highly trained. The problem is the way those people are cared for. Because what we've done is we've created cultures in hospitals where the people who are doing the caring aren't cared for. And so all of these little preventable deaths are happening because they don't feel like they're a part of anything. They're just doing their jobs and they don't get along that well, and there's not a lot of camaraderie. And the impact is death, right? Now, I use this example because it's exaggerated because the impact is so powerful. But the problem is the same in our own companies, right? Which is we come to work and we're told, you must care for your clients, you must care for your customers, you must make them the focus of all you do, and yet why aren't the people who are managing us from the top caring about us? So, yes, in a hospital the impact is worse, but the impact that we're having on the outside world is just as bad. In other words, we're not working at our best. We don't care for the things we're doing. We're not helping each other is the most important part. And the residual impact is that we are unfulfilled by the work that we do. And when we're unfulfilled by the work that we do, we focus on the details. And when we focus on the details, we retract from each other. When we retract from each other, we feel lonely. And when we feel lonely, cancer goes up, heart disease goes up, diabetes goes up. In other words, by going to work, we're killing ourselves. Literally. There's another study that was released not that long ago that says that parents who work late, the negative impact that it has on their children is little to none. They may feel guilty as parents, but the negative